Welcome back to Under the Microscope. Myself, John Ledyard, along with Brandon Thorne. This might be the one we're real excited about. This one. I say that every week. I feel like that we're most excited about this one. We're giving you the old school look, by the way, too. Inside Camtasia with the clips on the side there, so you can see a little bit of boom, boom, shot by shot how we're going through this. But we're going to look at Anders Peat to start, the Saints left guard who is really seen his play improve and isn't getting enough praise. Kind of got ripped as a early on in his career as a tackle, and now he's a good playing guard. And we've seen him even play tackle some this season and play at a much better level. So improved play from him. We're going to look at a lot of Denver, Kansas City, though. That's going to be our main focus after we move through Pete. A lot of Denver, Kansas City, some good offensive line play and some good pass rush play from what I think. And I know Brandon probably doesn't agree because the Broncos lost, but I think probably one of the games of the year, one of my favorite football games I probably ever watched was this past Monday night.
It definitely was. I mean, there's no question. I loved watching the game. I mean, don't get me wrong, the ending sucked, but, the whole game was awesome. I mean, I hate to see, the Denver offensive line get such a bad rap, because of the right tackle position, because I think everywhere else they're better this year.
Right.
So I'm excited to talk about that and just kind of give my opinion on that, because I think it's just really skewed,
Right.
kind of how they're viewed.
Yeah, agreed.
And then Pete, man. I mean, Pete, is a guy that I didn't watch a whole lot at Stanford, but I kind of knew the general consensus on him and whatnot. But
the biggest butt I have ever seen on a college football player, on like just a huge legs too,
just pretty massive.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, his upper body's pretty thick too. I mean, he's a big man, But he's better at left guard in my opinion. He's played there the majority of the year. He's played left tackle and done it pretty well. This game, not so much. I mean, Robert Quinn gave him a lot of issues because Armstead wound up going down this game. And Pete came in later on, played at left tackle, still did well in the run game, but in the pass, you could tell he was struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
So I just think he's better inside, man. He can handle things better in there. I think he could really use his size more effectively in there. It kind of just accentuates his strengths. You know what I mean?
I mean, even coming out, I thought that was a possibility for him. So, I mean, his feet were never great in space, I felt like, but he was super big and powerful. So get him in those close quarters where he can maximize that. I think it could be really good for him. And I've loved what I've seen from him so far this season.
Yeah, so I only have 3 clips in here because we wanted to keep it more Broncos-Chiefs. So these are just 3 running game clips. I just want to kind of highlight the running game, because that's where Pete really excels. He's a much better run blocker than pass blocker, in my opinion. So this is against the Rams right here, and let's check it out. Yeah, just very efficient, on the way out to the second level there,
Right.
on this screen. Just I love how kind of just quick and violent this is. Okay, it's just very I'm just
Right.
on to the next thing, and getting to the second level. I mean, you could see basically his power come through as he just kind of levels that linebacker.
Looked like he barely hit him and just laid him out.
I know.
He's so powerful, man. Like, I mean,
I know.
line up a target in space, do that.
Yes.
And he's playing that with that nastiness. That's kind of what you always want to see from him.
Dude. I mean, you said it right here, because it really doesn't look like he gives him a whole lot, but from Pete, it is a lot compared to the normal, I guess, offensive guard. You know what I mean? So this linebacker just wasn't expecting it. And it's I don't know, it's nice.
I love that he's not lunging in space either. A lot of guys are so eager to deliver that blow, but he's bringing his legs up underneath him and kind of driving into the block.
For sure. Love that pickup right there. I mean, they're working, to this backside linebacker, and Pete has to come off as the inside man, which is kind of rare.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a really mental processing for sure, because he sees it right here.
His eyes get to the target, wall him off, run
right?
him
And it
upfield.
springs that run, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that run was huge. That was a huge run in that game as far as yardage gained. I forgot how long it was, but just a really nice pickup there. So that shows off a totally different side of his game.
Yeah,
just
very sharp kid, I think. I'm not just saying that because he went to Stanford either.
Right. I'm sure that didn't hurt.
Right.
But Peat here, he's at left tackle. Obviously, we mentioned that earlier. And this is just a really nice job in the run game at tackle. Again, I mean, he's coming, man.
Right.
That's violent. Like, again, I like this little pass off here on the screen. This one's a little more violent.
Yeah, actually gets Quinn another step upfield probably there.
Right. And then that gives the running back that much more room. And then this right here, I mean, just the collision and then the ability to line up a target in space. Perfect.
Right. Just chop right on that thigh.
Right.
Chop him down. Yeah, that's nice. He's a good player. I'm real excited about him. And he's only going to get better with more experience there. I think the Saints' offensive line has played really pretty well this year, and Armstead's been banged up a little bit. But overall, not a lot of complaints out of New Orleans with their play. I think they've run the ball and thrown the ball extremely well this year, in large part because of that line, and they probably don't get enough praise. So it's been impressive to see Peat develop too.
Definitely. So yeah, this is the Sunday night football game right here. Huge game, and the Broncos offensive line, the only thing I really see on Twitter during the game, mostly for the Broncos, is like negative talk about the offensive line. And, if you watch the film, it's not all negative. I mean, there's actually more positive than negative on this offensive line, in my opinion, especially when you consider what they were last season. I mean, just in one season, they've totally changed, in my opinion. I mean, Schofield inside is clearly a better fit for him. He's a pretty solid offensive guard now. You have Stevenson at right tackle. He needs to play instead of Sombrero now. I think that's pretty clear.
Right.
Paradis is better than he was last year, and he was good last year. I was on him last year like people are this year.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's like
one
the
of the
same
best
player,
young centers in the league, probably, I think.
Yeah, he's a really good. Exactly. I mean, he definitely kind of lacks in his play strength a little bit at times, like in his anchor. He kind of gets overrun a little bit. But aside from that, I think he's pretty good. But he's not Travis Frederick or anything.
Right.
But he's definitely up and coming. I know Pro Football Focus. Chris Collinsworth said during the game that Matt Paradis was the best center in the game.
Oh my
because
goodness.
he's the best rated.
Because
he's the best rated by Pro Football Focus.
Oh my!
And
yeah,
dude, he said that. Yeah, he said that, and I was like, no, that's just simply not true. I me's like 3 or 4 centers I'd take before Paradis.
Sure, yeah, I was thinking of him as a top 10 guy when I said that. Not. That's a lot.
He's like 6 or 7, probably, maybe 5, maybe. But yeah, there's clearly like 4, probably 5 guys I'd take before him.
Sure. Right.
But I like him a lot, though.
Sure.
That's not to say. I mean, dude, he's incredible. I mean, especially for where he came from. He played 8-man football in Idaho in high school.
Yeah. Freaking crazy.
I mean, yeah, and he was just an underrated guy. So that's cool. And Garcia we'll talk about, and then Okung is clearly better than Stevenson was at left tackle last year.
Oh,
he's
1,000 times.
Major up.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a better line. So let's just watch this first play. So I wanted to highlight Okung here. I mean, Russell Okung, man, I've been really high on him, during his career, just for what he is when he's healthy. I mean, I know injury-wise his injuries have ravaged his career, but when he's healthy, man, he has really incredible skill, and he's an athletic marvel, man. I mean, he benched, I believe, 38 reps of 225 with 36-inch arms.
Don't see that very often.
No, not at all. I mean, he's got a lot of like natural ability. And that bench, not that the bench press, really translates, to a great player, but it certainly is kind of a signal or kind of a,
Indicator.
Exactly, of just his raw strength. And yeah, you definitely see it here. So he winds up getting help from the tight end, but this is just a really good set. He's squared up with them. Nice hand placement. And right here, he's starting to anchor. And watch what happens when he makes that transition. He also pulls the defensive lineman down. I mean, it's just, he does this a lot. When he gets underneath a guy, you notice he's pulling his jersey right here. He's pulling his jersey to do this, to out leverage him and bury him. And I mean, you could call that holding, but good offensive linemen get away with that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it looks like he pretty much just owned him. You know what I mean? Granted, he might have pulled him down, but that's savvy. That's just.
And the way he rolls his body to shield from the official. It's not like there's this big clear extension of the arms and rim of the jersey. He's keeping it nice and tight inside. I mean, there really is holding on almost every play. It's just a matter of how you can get away with it.
Yep. And this is so smooth. Man, I love seeing that.
Yeah.
So, we're going to highlight both offensive lines. I've looked at this game, from an unbiased perspective when I watched the all 22. When I watch it on Sunday, I'm a fan, but on Monday when I watch it on, coach's tape, I try to look at it.
Right.
Yeah, I just try to look at it, from that unbiased eye. So, and I love watching offensive line. So we're going to highlight some plays here that were just awesome. That stood out to me about the Chiefs offensive line. So this is a nice job on many different levels right here.
I'm glad you picked this play because it highlights Sherman a good bit, their fullback. I think he's a really good player.
Oh, where's he from?
I don't remember, actually.
Okay.
I'll look it up, though. But, yeah.
Big dude, though. Yeah, look at this block right here from Kelsey. Just a nice job. Him and Schwartz are just really just trying to push this down, number 97, and just clear space for these pullers. And Kelsey just really just buries him. Not really bury, just gives enough. He winds up missing the linebacker, but he does his original job. Nice seal there on that pulling guard. Fullback squares up really nicely. I mean, yeah, a lot of nice blocks, on this play.
I love the fullback cutting that nice tight arc, or not even really, just kind of that line across the back of the offensive line, almost like shielding himself so the linebacker doesn't see him coming. Sneaks up behind that puller, and the way he gets leveraged on that first initial punch when he hits Todd Davis, hands boom outside and lift, and he kind of jars Davis up so he doesn't have his feet and he can't recover, and that gives that back enough time and space there to be able to slip through. Yep.
And then I like Schwartz at the end, just how he kind of finishes. I mean, he's been playing a lot more like aggressive. I don't know. I watched his 2014 tape, and that's like kind of how I got to know him, at Scouting Academy when I studied him. And, he's a different player now. He's much more assertive, I think. He's really grown in that way. He's still, technically sound. I highlight him, I think, a couple times. Oh, man, this is beautiful. So before, I just kind of want to preface this by just saying, watch Mitch Morse, the center.
Boom. I actually tweeted about this when it happened live. I think I called back, on a penalty or something. But, oh, man, he just, he flattened. Who was it? Is it Ware or no? I forget. I can't see what number that is, but just the way to peel back and look for work, he's such a good player, man.
That's Jared Crick.
Yeah, Crick.
Yeah, it's just a really nice play. A nice job right here to get Billy King down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he puts him on his knees.
Right.
That's an underrated aspect of that play. And, he just, the guy wasn't even looking for it. obviously, but still, just the way that he was able to get into position so quickly, and just how he diagnosed that backside needed to be cleaned up, and he cleans it up. It's
Right.
just really a smart play more than anything. More so than like a physical, domination or anything. It's just like, wow, your mind allowed that to happen, basically.
Right.
Just process that really well. Yeah, I mean, right here,
Garcia.
really nice job by Garcia. I mean, and then the finish is underrated with him. His finish is one of the best in the league, in my opinion. I mean, he wants it bad. He kind of reminds me of Josh Garnett in that way. Like him and Garnett are kind of similar in some regards, but they definitely want to get after you in the run game. That's just a nice square, and then he finishes them.
And Paradis, I think it's pushed back a little bit here, but does a great job controlling. I think it's Dontari Poe.
Right.
And that's a big.
I
mean, you might get pushed a little bit when you're giving up the size that he is, but just stay on it. Work with it as much as you can. Almost in this case, allow Poe to momentum to take you where he will, and let the running back cut off of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Paradis was doing the same stuff last year. I mean, he wins in such crafty ways. You know what I mean? He makes up for his deficiencies, I think, really well.
Yeah, that's a really nice play by Garcia, though. I like that one.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. Garcia again does a good job there. He's just nice, and I love this pass set though from Russell Okung, the left tackle. Him and Ali battled, man, and I mean I think Okung probably got the better of the matchup.
Sure, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, that footwork right there is so this little nuance, man. I mean, so Ali tries to bait him inside right there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Right, and there's no way.
Just look at that transition of his feet. Look how pretty that is. And then here, I mean, that just shuts it down, and he makes it look so easy.
Right.
Like a lot happened there.
He got out of his stance so quickly. I think Ali thought he couldn't get the edge. He just right away was like, I either have to go through him or inside him, or I'm not going to win.
I mean, his footwork is really nice, man. Like, just he gives two really like subtle, sweet, like little jab steps, and then this big expansion right here, and then the subtlety to just win that to block him off there, really to understand that angle and to block him off with your hips and your shoulders like that. It's a nice job.
And Ali doesn't have that same explosiveness out of his stance that he used to have. Not that he was ever the twitchiest guy, but you can definitely tell he's a lot more lethargic coming out of his stance. Still a good player for sure, but he has to rely on his hands now more than ever, and he always was kind of relying on that. So now it takes away a little bit of how consistently he can be effective. He can still do it in times, but certainly not the pass rusher he once was. Still a really good player.
Yeah, I 100% agree with all of that. That's well said. This is I think it's Morse again, but I'm not sure. Yeah, this is Morse again, I think. Yeah, just another nice job of basically doing the exact same thing, but to the other side. Slaps that man down, works the backside, and just levels Derek Wolfe. So far, Jared Crick and Derek Wolfe have been leveled by Mitch Morse.
And that's what he does, though. He's so good in space. That's one of the reasons I liked him so much coming out. I just thought a guy who mentally clearly understood the game at a high level and was just really efficient with his angles and his hand placement and all those different things. It may not be the biggest guy or anything like that, but just a lot of traits that I liked about him coming out that was a big reason I had a second-round grade on him.
That's awesome, man. I didn't get to watch him much coming out, but I did watch almost all of his 2015 tape as a rookie, and I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
For sure. Right. It's really Garcia again, man. Him and Chris Jones had some battles as well. This is just a really nice job. I mean, he comes out of his stance really quickly here. And, I mean, he's around him before Chris Jones. You know, Chris Jones is just reading the ball. And
right.
You know.
I'm wondering if gap-wise, nice I'm trying to think about Chris Jones on this play, and gap-wise, it would appear, you know, he's shaded as a 3-tech. You know, it would appear he'd have that B gap, but it looks like he jumps to the A gap, and Derek Johnson flows hard to the B gap. So I wonder if they're switching or.
Yeah, I think so.
It's hard to say.
I think maybe versus zone, that's like maybe like an adaptation that they have.
Because look at post
built
step.
In.
Right. Looks like post steps left off the snap too, which is where, you know, normally you go with the direction of the offensive line's flowing. Poe kind of takes out that backside guy himself because he steps, you know, what looks like the wrong way. I wonder why.
Right. Yeah, but, you know, nonetheless, even if Chris Jones is coached to take that A gap, okay, so this right here is, kind of a given for Garcia, but you could see the hand placement. You could see him strain. You always want to see an offensive lineman strain, you know, and that's exactly what you want to see right there. So when Duke, Manny Weather, somebody like that says, you know, strain and gain or strain in the run game, that's like exactly it.
And I love that hand placement on the chest. So, you know, it looks like Jones is moving him a little bit, but really it's Garcia who has the leverage advantage there and is just kind of holding Jones in place so he can't get off that block.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. So this is a awesome formation. This reminds me of like the '98 Broncos when I was like broken in watching football, you know, back in the day. This is so Gary Kubiak, and I love it. I mean, it just reminds me of, you know, it's a strong eye formation, man. I love it. You know?
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Not a lot of teams run strong eye, let alone employ a fullback. And Andy Janovich is a very good player, man. I think.
Yeah, both these teams really good fullback play.
Yeah, man. Janovich is an interesting guy. He's like I think he was a national champion wrestler in Nebraska.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But yeah, I mean, Paradis, man, he is so good at reaching a shaded player on outside zone. Like, that is Paradis' moneymaker for sure.
It's crazy because that's one of the hardest things, you know. Can you reach that play side shoulder and seal it, you know? Look at that.
Yeah, he consistently just works his shoulders and hips around off of that drive leg incredibly efficiently and quickly. And look at, I mean, his mobility to get into these positions. Look at that footwork, dude.
In the midst of
he steps behind it.
It's crazy.
And his hands are perfect. It's just like... I mean,
it's a complete wall he just built there.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. That's an incredible play.
Yeah, wow. That is a ridiculous block. Because, you know, you say there's a lot of ways to win on outside zone. You know, you can not reach the play side shoulder and run them to the sideline. You know, you can reach it and get pushed back and then seal and run them upfield. You know, there's a lot of different scenarios. But to completely, I mean, that's as completely, you does not get more perfect than that.
No.
I don't think there's anything else you can do.
No.
It's crazy. It's
I'm glad I watched the Broncos O-line tape so I could at least share the truth about kind of some things, you know, with how they're playing.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty fun. Just a good pocket there overall.
Right.
Stevenson right here, man, I wanted to kind of touch on for sure. You know, I mean, first of all, he gets into a position where he can actually make contact without falling over.
Yeah.
Like Tyson Braylo was doing. I mean, he just wasn't reaching his spot, and it put him behind consistently. He was, oh, man. Yeah, you know, he was really struggling to hit his set points and then to expand. Like his set point, if his set gets stressed, he struggles with that. So Stevenson gets out here nice and quick, puts a little bit of a strike on him, but just stays in front of him and just works him around.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's just Thank you. That's like all we need.
That's all you're asking for.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, and Stevenson probably did get away with some holds during this game on Houston, but like, listen,
yeah,
you ain't trying to be hating at this point. You're just, can we stop him?
You're just trying to get stuff done, man. Right. I mean, we just need something like respectable out there.
Exactly. Houston's transition here is great.
Sombrelo's been, it's been tough to see, and I feel bad for him, honestly, man. I just want him to go inside to guard and get some time there. I think. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough for him because he's expected to be a tackle.
Right.
So
I have some plays highlighting him too, but I really like Houston's transition of hands here. I know he maybe gets hooked a little bit around the edge and the pass, but look, the long arm, and then it's a little bit of a dip. So the long arm isn't even super, in this rep, it doesn't even have a huge impact, but it just kind of holds him, but then dip and get that arm underneath so you can rip, and then you would bend there. He probably gets hooked a little bit for sure, but it's still a good job by Stevenson around the field, but it's just real. That's what Houston wins, I think, is just really efficient hands, and he's been able to
finishing
moves
that
together.
Corner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, finishing that corner, man, is so tough.
Right. He's really able to string moves together really nicely.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, I really wanted to highlight Okung here, though. I think primarily, just a really nice set out there. This right here, that transition that he does to protect that inside that's like a signature move, I think. Because I do not think I've ever seen a left tackle really look like this when they transition. I don't know, it's just unique. I mean, this step right here to protect the inside, he goes into a vertical set. Right. He's setting 45, and he goes into a vertical set to stop the inside, and now he's back into a 45.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, he used two different sets almost in once. And, I mean, that running back almost knocked him off.
I know.
He's just so quick.
That right there is like the artistry I talk about, man. Yeah,
that's really pretty.
Yeah, it's just so cool.
And, I like how, we've consistently been able to point out, Joe Thomas and David Bakhtiari's stances are different than everybody else, but they do things that, work for them. And, you're seeing Okun do things that, work for him. And, these are veteran guys who've played a long time. They figured some things out and figured out where they can cut corners and adapt techniques to fit them well. And, it's just kind of cool to see each player has their yes, there's staple sets of rules overall for the way the positions should be played, but also, screw the rules at some points. Here's how guys win, which is the cool aspect of it.
Right.
You see that with pass rushers too.
This is good stuff, man. We're touching on a lot of good things, I think, because that's certainly true. Watch Paradis here. This is just a really good fit, and I mean, you like to see this.
Yeah. Sorensen wasn't ready for that.
No, not at all. So that little finish, that aspect there, I didn't see much last year, so that's really encouraging.
Right.
This looks like the last clip here. Again, that strong eye. Paradis again, man.
My goodness. Is that Nunez? Same player he's working on?
Yeah.
Jeez. And
that's just so nice.
Is this Booker?
Yeah. You would think Booker's read would be out here somewhere.
I was just about to say, he probably should have banged this.
Either here
back off Paradis, right? And made Derek Johnson come over and make that play.
Exactly.
Really here, he cuts back into Houston.
Wins.
Right. And
that could be a vision issue,
Right.
Possibly. Just for him not to see this.
Right. Because really...
thinking... Yeah.
If Derek
he just
Johnson,
ran into the defense.
Yeah. If Derek Johnson gets picked up and he does get knocked off balance a little bit and you cut that off Paradis, you're probably looking at a huge gain. I mean, because Rameek Wilson, the 53, gets reached. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's fascinating. I mean, I said this reminds me of 98, but Terrell Davis would have did something with that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's still not a bad – I mean, it's not a bad play for sure,
No, No, I just like to think about, take that analogy a little further,
Right.
and just think like, you know, our running back vision is fascinating, and when you
Mhm.
see it done well, like we have in our videos, with David Johnson,
Right.
people like that, it's pretty special.
Mhm.
So not just offensive line observations are being made.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. For sure.
So yeah, I guess we can go to your video.
Yeah, I got just a couple with pass rushers real quick I wanted to look at, but also, I figured when we're talking about all these offensive lines, let's look at Sam Braylo a little bit and see, what might be some of his issues. I've touched on a little bit of Houston's strengths, and certainly I won't pretend like this wasn't a matchup that could quite easily, showcase those strengths, but still, I think it's unbelievable that Houston could come back off of so much missed time. And last week he didn't play like a heavy snap count, and this week he played like almost every snap of a 5-quarter game and becoming consistently dominant. I mean, almost snap to snap, unblockable. And 10 tackles for an edge is just absurd. Like, that just doesn't happen. And this is a team with Eric Berry and Derek Johnson, two guys that will rack up tackles. So to lead your team, and I don't know if, and this goes to Von Miller's too, I don't know if I've ever seen a game where two edges both led their teams in tackles with double-digit tackles and had 3 sacks apiece. I mean, that's how just incredible this game was. It was just awesome to watch. But you'll see Houston's hand usage on display here, and it's the thing that really sets him apart, I think, as a player. Because watch him out of his stance. I won't even say anything. Just watch him out of his stance, and then we'll see Vaughn later, and you'll see the differences.
This is a TV copy too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the TV.
Yeah,
thank God for this.
This is cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the night games have really good angles for this stuff, which is crucial.
yeah.
I wish that all games did.
But
you can see him out of his stance. It's nothing particularly, he's not crazy explosive on his first step. It's not his biggest.
He's just so smooth.
Right. He is the smoothest mover, man. Like, everything that he does is so exact. He really kind of wins in ways that are similar to Tom Ali, and I wonder if that's one of the things that KC was attracted when they were scouting him coming out, if they thought that as well, because they're not dissimilar players. Houston's probably a better athlete than Ali was. I don't know. I forget how Ali's numbers coming out. But
he is.
But I think that they are still kind of reliant. They're both big time on hand usage. So you can see here as he comes around top of the arc, it's long arm into the chest. That offhand is going to push just a little bit on the shoulder. He's already leaning forward, so he really barely had to do anything. Sam Braylo's already was weights way out over his toes, and so he knows exactly what he needs to do. But normally he'd push that back shoulder, get that line. It almost works like a push-pull. It's kind of like a leverage thing. You get into him here, they lean to try and match your long arm. As soon as they lean, you push their back shoulder, they're down, and you can bend that edge and be able to finish. Really pretty stuff.
Yeah, but I'll just preface this too, with the fact that Sambrelo has really struggled at right tackle this season, and I hate to, like on my grading scale that I use from, that I was taught or whatever, like a 1 or like poor is a trait like grade that you never give hardly ever. It's like a 1 to 7 scale.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some stuff that could be approaching poor for Sambrelo. So with that being said, I'm not, he also has some solid to good traits as well. But, versus somebody like Justin Houston, Houston should dominate him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like this, there's no question. You should dominate this guy.
Right.
And I'm just saying that, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So while it is impressive still to see it done, it's like it's kind of expected if you know these guys' skill sets.
Right. Exactly. And Denver probably should have given Sambrelo more help. I don't think there's any question, or not started him. You know what I mean? Because, Houston almost, basically won every single rep of the two. I mean, it was, like you said, a great player should dominate a poor one. And Houston, even coming off injury, and still getting into game shape, beat him almost every single snap. So he's an elite player. And so that's what you want to see from an elite player. But still, technically, there's a lot of things we can watch and take away from him and be, really excited about with Houston, because it's not like this is the only, it's not like when Vic Beasley beat Ty Sambrailo, everybody was like, okay, well, it's great, but Beasley is beating one of the worst tackles in the league probably, so we're not, but Houston had a 20-some sack season, so we know this guy's elite already. We don't need him to prove it.
Yeah, and just for clarification, I don't really think Sambrailo is a poor player. Mm-hmm. I do think he has some poor traits.
Sure.
But I do think he has some solid traits and some good traits as well. And just specifically, just real quick, I think his athletic ability is pretty solid.
Right.
I think he has enough athletic ability to succeed. But mental processing right now is definitely, in my opinion, and when I say mental processing, I'll explain that. I think it's kind of below average. And just right here, from the coach's tape, I watched this play and I kind of broke it down myself. He does a step inside here that is really odd. And you could see it from the coach's tape perfectly. So from here, you may not see it, but just watch how he kind of covers up the inside when he doesn't look like he has to. Right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What from the coach's tape, you see it and you don't know what happened. Because there's nobody there to cover first, right here.
Yeah, and
he steps inside like he should do it, like he's coached to do it or whatever. So there's something wrong there.
Yeah, he's giving him the edge basically. He's
right. He invites him inside or out. Not inside. He invites him basically outside. To the quarterback. Mm-hmm. And then he tries to recover from it, and he just simply can't do it because his transition is not even good right here. Right here when he's transitioning, that's kind of a weak step here to here.
Compare it to Okun, when we saw Okun move, lateral. It was so efficient and powerful and balanced and confident.
So, that play there is kind of like, all right, yeah, Justin. But Justin Houston, again, is like we said, on top of that mess up from Sambrailo, he's very smooth. Mm-hmm. And like you said, he strings together pass rush moves incredibly well.
Mm-hmm. Again, nothing crazy out of the stance. Ferocious punch. I think Sambrailo, you probably have a few things to say about that, but it's still just mixing up. He mixes up his rush as well. He's been attacking the edge, Now he's just going to go straight through you. He has an inside counter that's nasty. So you're thinking about both of those two things. And then Houston doesn't do this a ton, but all of a sudden he'll just go right through you out of nowhere, and you never see it coming. He is just you don't want to say methodical because it sounds like a negative, but there's a pace to his game that efficient's the best word, because he's still getting the job done quickly, obviously, to be able to record as much production as he does. But you just don't see him, in there. He's sudden when he needs to be. That's probably the best way to say it, is that he's not necessarily the most, like Vaughn, everything he does is just like twitched up, screams like crazy, ultra athletic. And with Houston, it's much more subtle, which I really appreciate about him, I think.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with all of that.
And they're very
I
different.
Definitely see that.
It's funny too, because they're very different personality-wise, even too. Like Houston is very dry, and after he gets these sacks and there's almost nothing. He runs off the field, points up, and that's basically it. That's his self. Vaughn, there's always a dance, and he's got his fashion looks and all that. They're just it's funny to see their personalities come out in their playing styles a lot of the time too.
Exactly. I love that contrast, even in history, with NFL. I mean, the greatest at their position at one time, to look at their different personalities is pretty fascinating. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Derek Thomas is, reminds me a lot of Von Miller, or Von Miller reminds me a lot of him.
Right.
Just,
and what's cool about Houston too,
style.
What's cool about Houston is, what's interesting is, and this will be the last thing I say on this one, is just that, I talk about his stance and him being ready as a pass rusher, and here he actually does look a little more queued up. But there's times, his body language you can't tell really pre-snap. Some guys it's so obvious whether they're coming, and even Vaughn, a lot of the time it's obvious. Like he's inching, he's moving, he's bobbing, and with Houston, a lot of time there isn't even that. Like this is probably as prepared in his stance as he'll look, and really he's just kind of poised here. There's not a lot of pre-snap gyration or bouncing or that back calf flexing, which can be a tell. So sometimes it almost lulls an opponent to sleep a little bit because he doesn't look as queued up. So you're not, a lot of guys are like with Vaughn, like it's always like, I got to protect the edge. If he beats me inside, I got to protect the edge. I got to protect the edge. And you're freaking out. With Houston, you just don't know what to expect a lot of the time. There's almost more and Vaughn's a great power rusher, but with Houston, it's just like there's so much to think about. And he doesn't, nobody corners like Vaughn does. It's not even a knock, but it just, but there's a lot more to think about.
Yeah, Vaughn is so special.
Yeah. And we have a nice little Vaughn clip in here too.
Okay, good. Because I want to talk about Vaughn for sure. Sombrero here, man, I really see kind of an issue with maybe mobility in his hips and knees and ankles here. I mean, he just has no reaction really to, build his house like me and Duke say. Well, Duke says it. And what he means by that is once you hit your spot and you got to transition to anchor or to engage, you have to be in a position of power, preferably with a good split, in your feet, something balanced, something ready to go. And he just never gets there. He just is still kind of just in a blah position, and he has no power. He has nothing to counteract, Houston's force with.
And I know I don't know. His hands there get really low, even right before
his hands
contact.
Are not good.
Yeah, and so those need to be higher. Some guys we've seen come up underneath. They come up underneath their opponent's arms. They can get away with it. You
got to get inside.
Yeah,
look at Houston's hands.
Right.
They're so tight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If you lose your chest.
Yeah, you still got to fight that. You still got to fight it.
Right.
Yeah.
And he just isn't on. I mean, that's that can't happen in the NFL. Let's just put it that way. This is an interesting play, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on it because I'm curious what the offensive line and what the protection sees here. So Houston is lined up over here in that 5-tech, real tight on Russell Okun's outside shoulder. And in the case, he kind of covers most of the gaps pre-snap. So right now, and Gaines is number 23 here. He's just running in motion, so ignore him. But right now, there's counting Holly out here, who's kind of behind Gaines there on your right. Counting him, there's 6 rushers really to worry about here, and there's 6 guys in protection. So if you're reading your triangles or you're thinking that way, you would think that these 3 on the left, counting Booker. I wish I could can't really show you, I guess, what I'm saying. But to your left, have those 3 guys to the left, and then to the right, they're working that way with the center. But I think because of the shade, the center steps to the right. So it basically would leave, if everybody came, it's kind of worst case scenario is how you have to think. If everybody came, I think they're thinking about how do we pick this up. And Holly would be the free rusher in this situation. Looks like the way that they protect it. But somehow Garcia and Okun get their wires crossed here. And Houston still makes a nice play to get in and finish. But it looks like they get their wires crossed about how they want to pick up this protection. So I'm curious your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I saw this play. It's hard to say. We'll watch it real quick. Sorry, I don't know why it gets slow like that. There we go.
So it's just a little twist with Holly and Houston, and I'm not sure if they were thinking too much pre-snap or what it is, but it looks like you would think at this point Okun's got to probably take Houston, and he watches Holly come across.
I think Houston. I think it looks like just watching it from this angle that Okun, because Ali slanted around him, he should have picked up. This is basically a TE stunt.
Right.
It looks like he should have picked up Houston, and Houston just bolts inside, and he wasn't expecting that. That's what it looks like. I don't know. But, and then Garcia, he should help a lot more
than he does.
Than that.
Probably, yeah. I think he's worried
that's
about
his priority. He's already looking at Ali.
Yeah.
But you got to give a little more than that, before you work over. So it was just a great job by the defense to put these guys in these types of positions with just little subtle nuance, and it was just, and it's hard to really pinpoint that on somebody on the offensive line because it's kind of both of them could have done something better.
Right. Yeah,
You know,
both of them could have, and I thought it was interesting. I always look for things that tip you off to the, as I chart sacks, I'm kind of like, well, you see Houston and Holly on the same side. They're probably not just straight rushing you. Something's probably going on. You're getting that amount of pass rush ability and that amount of explosiveness on one side for a reason. So I wasn't sure if it was something pre-snap that threw them off or what it was, because it doesn't really appear like that there's another threat. But
I mean, it looks like right here, this could be, kind of a half-man slide protection.
Mm-hmm. With
3 going to the right, 2 going to the left.
Yep.
And so that's what it looks like. But yeah, it was definitely a good play. And I mean, I think that safety, just kind of held Garcia there just for a second, to the Sorensen guy.
Yeah, Sorensen.
Yeah,
it's interesting too.
Bob Sutton's awesome, man. He's a great D coordinator.
Really good, yeah. I like the fact that even though this is maybe a little more easier access than Houston's used to, watch his hand here, that left hand flashes up, kind of pushes Okun forward a little bit, and then the other hand, watch it chop down on Garcia when Garcia comes over. Boom, chops down, and look at him, see, he pushes him off. And Garcia's already leaving, but just a lot of guys just try and put their shoulders down, close your eyes, and blow through when they're a crasher on a twist. The fact that Houston's a lot of time the crasher's the decoy. Houston, when he's a crasher, he's the threat. So a lot of the time, the crasher's looking to occupy blockers for the looper to get in clean. Well, in this situation, Houston's just as threatening as anyone because of his ability to use his hands and the way he flips those shoulders to get skinny through the gap. A lot of people would think, oh, easy sack, but the more you watch it, he had to do some pretty good handwork to get in as clean as he did, and ended up being a massive play getting that safety in a game that went to overtime. So here's Vaughn. I think just one of the most explosive athletes out of his stance that there is in the game, no question. Loves the ball watch and time up his jumps. At times, there's you have no shot. There was one play in this game I was going to put it in, or I didn't even put it in because there's not much. Schwartz literally has no chance to block him. It's not possible. He just guesses. He times up the snaps and he gets out of his stance and he didn't even touch him. Smith got the ball really quickly, but it's people rip Schwartz this and that during a game. It is just almost impossible to keep the sheet clean against Von Miller. He's that good, and he's that ridiculous of an athlete. And you'll see here, I'm sure you'll have maybe a pointer or two for Schwartz on this play, but. Somebody said it. Collinsworth said it in the broadcast that Von Miller could run under a table at full speed, and I just think that, man, that's really accurate because this kind of bend, and that's what's fun about charting pass rushers. You just won't see anything like what Von does with any other rusher. I mean, DeMarcus Ware is the closest one that you'll see this kind of bend, this kind of flexibility to be able to do something like this.
Yeah, dude, it's really tough, like you said, to really shut down or even contain Von Miller at this point. From an individual one-on-one matchup. But what's so impressive about Schwartz is he did it last year. For the most part. I mean, when Cleveland played Denver, I mean, he pretty much shut down Von Miller. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a huge reason why he's in Kansas City now. I don't know. It just makes sense to me, I mean, yeah, a right tackle doing well against Von Miller hadn't been seen.
Yeah. I mean, he's that dangerous of a player. You can see already, look at the explosion, it's so much more threatening to the edge than just automatically you're scared about that.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, dude. Von Miller is just.
That's what I mean. It's like, Schwartz.
I haven't seen anything like that since Derek Thomas, dude.
And seriously. Schwartz blocks him, really. I mean, he's got a hand on him. He's running him up like he should. There's so little surface area to hit. And look at this corner that he turns. This is ridiculous.
That reach right there with his hand like that, that is incredible, man. To get into that position. Yeah,
it's such a disgust. And we just watched one last week, I think you and I, when we did this against the Raiders. Vaughn did basically the same thing, and there are just some play. And Schwartz, he did it a couple times. And Schwartz blocked him out a couple times, but his ability to be full speed upfield at a ridiculous angle and then just turn an angle that's impossible to the quarterback is, it's unbelievable to watch. Look at the hands. That's the other
His
underrated
transition
part.
is amazing, man.
Yep, square to half man, and then there's that rip underneath.
For Schwartz, once the point of attack occurs, there's some stoppage, you know what I mean? And once that happens, Vaughn just transitions to the outside so quickly you don't have time to react.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's incredible how quickly he transitions.
Yeah, so just a disgusting play I had to put in there. And I just don't know how much you can rip Schwartz for that. This is an interesting play because I had mixed opinions on this play, and I think that both players do their job well in this play, really. And Trevor Siemian does it, and because of that, it's a huge sack in this game in overtime. And the Broncos, and this was on third down. It was kind of an underrated play in the game because the Broncos' drive could have kept going here. So it's Tom Ali, Russell Okung, and Okung definitely won this matchup, I thought, as I rewatched the game. But Hawley gets a good rush here. He gets a good power rush, and Okung sinks his hips and kind of stops him and slows it down. Now, he may step on – I could not get a good enough look to see – he looks like he hits Siemian, and I'll let you run it through it here in a second, but it looks like he hits him, and maybe that affects him, but it really looks like Siemian could have kept his feet and made a play here and didn't. And he did throughout the game make a number of plays and extend them, but this was, I thought, pretty good by Hawley and a good response by Okung, and Siemian didn't get out of it to make a play when he could have. So kind of interesting nuance because everybody's saying Okung got blown up here, but there's a little more to it. So I'll let you run through it. Definitely Hawley gets inside. You can see he has leverage and knocks him back 2 steps.
Oh, yeah. I remember this play.
Yeah, and it looks like Siemian does get his ankle stepped on a little bit, but it also kind of looks like he jumps on the ground.
Yeah.
And kind of like throws himself out there. And I just thought, you can't take the sack here for sure, because it made it a harder field goal, and they made it, but just in terms of fundamental, you have to be able to get out and throw this away because, there's an access outside the pocket here. They collapse things down. You can get out,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a really – oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just think there's a little more to it, and it has to be in here because Hawley does technically sack the quarterback with his own guy, and we said those would always be in Under the Microscope. But I thought that a little more pocket presence from Siemian could have kept that from happening in this situation. It wasn't like Okung just got ran over into him. He's getting caught, and he does what he has to do. He slows it down, and I just think that Siemian could have done a little bit more. Still a great play by Ali, no question.
Yeah, I think you said it, pretty much perfectly. I think Okung, ideally does not want to give up that much position, when trying to defeat a bull rush. But, however, he does recover, perfectly. It's just, it's late. And then also I think Siemian, I don't know, when you're evaluating a quarterback, I'm sure footwork is obviously huge. And once you hit your spot and your drop, ideally you want the ball gone.
Right.
So the fact that it's not gone and he drifts to the left,
right,
like towards Okung, that's, yeah. He could have probably thrown that ball to Thomas as soon as he hit his, if he had enough confidence, throw it.
Yeah,
right
anticipation throw. Because it's going to be there.
Yeah, exactly. It's there.
Right. But yeah, that's
perfect.
An example of probably.
That's what makes Peyton Manning, exactly. Or Tom Brady, right there.
Right. An example of what makes Siemian probably, if you talk about limitations, and I think he's done some really good things, and he's done better than I expect him to do. And I'm not.
I think that could develop though.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But yeah, anticipation to be able to throw this ball throw the receiver open on this kind of a situation and recognize that space is going to come available. I think is key. So yeah, it was an interesting play because it was a huge play in the game that at the time got a lot of talk, but now it's kind of ended up being overshadowed. But that play, their inability to get the first down there, they kicked the field goal, and then it was tied in overtime again. And so it was interesting. A big play in the game, I thought, and certainly a great play by Ali. Though he still shows he has that ability as a power rusher, which is huge. So. Fun stuff. This was a fun game, and I'm glad we got to break a lot of it down, though. This was our longest under the microscope, I think. We're coming up on 55 minutes here. So any final thoughts?
It was worth it.
You got to clarify some things in the Broncos O-line that I think was really good, and we got to highlight the Chiefs a little bit too.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what it's all about, just trying to bring insight to people, that usually gets overlooked, like line of scrimmage play, offensive and defensive line. It's always fun to kind of dispel some, myths out there, about their play. And, it's a lot more like layered than people want to give it credit for a lot of the time, Yeah. There's just so much context that you have to consider. And that's something that, I think we both try to continue to learn to do, always, we're trying to expand our ability to know different contexts, like, blocking schemes and, the triangle reads of a defensive lineman and, things like that. So,
right. Yeah. You're right. It's good stuff. It's interesting stuff. It's always fun hearing, swapping notes and hearing the other side of the offensive line side of things and comparing it to what defenders see and so on and so forth. So always good stuff on Under the Microscope. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate you checking us out. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll catch you again next week. Let us know if you guys want us to do a specific matchup. We're really up in the air for next week, so we'll see what becomes available to us this weekend as the games progress. So thanks for checking us out, and we'll catch you guys again soon.